Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our discussions on 1970s disaster movies. And I'd like to focus our attention, if I may, on another spectacular work of entertainment. This time we have a film directed by David Lowell Rich, produced by Jennings Lang, and screenplay by Eric Roth. And we have another spectacular, memorable cast, included in which are George Kennedy, Alain Delon, Sylvia Kristel, Robert Wagner, Susan Blakely, Bibi Andersson, Charo, David Warner, Eddie Albert, Sybil Danning, John Davidson, and others. This is a film which is from 1979, and that is very significant because in its title we have the year. The year is 79, Airport 79, or Le Concorde, Airport 79. This is the film which can be found in the Airport series, and to represent that series I have been relying on this Blu-ray complete collection, as it were, and so it has each of the films on disc in a very convenient one-stop shop, as it were. And we have the artwork on the back of this, and the fourth film here, Airport, or the Concorde Airport 79, is represented like so. So, the Concorde Airport 79, what to say about this remarkable achievement in disaster film entertainment? The story of the film is one involving an airplane and an airport and a cast of characters, passengers and crew and people on the ground. And it is a very multi-layered plot. It involves the Concorde flight, or a series of flights, passenger flights from different destinations. And we see the passengers and the crew and their interactions, of course. And here we get also some very intriguing intrigue, specifically industrial espionage of a certain sort involving the characters played by Robert Wagner, whose character is Kevin Harrison. And Harrison is an arms dealer, and we find out, is a corrupt one. And his corruption has been leaked. It has been found out due to a whistleblower. And the information of a whistleblower has gotten to an intrepid reporter, the Susan Blakely character, who happens to be in love with Kevin Harrison. And so there is already a source of tension in terms of her strained romantic relationship with Kevin Harrison on the one hand, and also her need to report the truth about his corrupt arms deals on the other, and to expose him and to make this news known to the public. Well, before she can do that, it is Kevin Harrison's plot to try to stop her from revealing the truth. And one would think that there would be, perhaps from the viewpoint of someone in Kevin Harrison's position, so many ways to try to stop this particular person from revealing the truth, going to publicize the story, as it were. And so, of the possibilities perhaps that could be chosen from, Kevin Harrison decides to instead use all the powers that are available to him, I suppose, as an arms dealer, to stop the Susan Blakely character from publicizing this news about his otherwise heretofore hidden corruption. And the way he sees that this is the best way to do this is to somehow stop or destroy the flight that she is on, the Concorde flight that she is on. In fact, she's on two flights in this film. The Concorde is, I'm assuming, because the Concorde is very fast, that this film had room for not one flight but two flights. And so we get two flights. And on each flight we get various situations that are set forth because of Kevin Harrison's dealings. In other words, he tries to destroy the flight using surface-to-air missiles, using fighter jets, using a type of device that is not an explosive device, but it triggers the hatch of the plane to blow open. And so these very, very elaborate plots are instigated and are applied in order to stop this particular flight, because this is seen as perhaps being the only way by Kevin Harrison and his crew, the only way to stop this particular reporter from publicizing this otherwise very damaging news to his credibility. Okay, so we have that level of industrial espionage and romantic intrigue already applied to this film. So already, I think we can see that this film is going in a certain direction. You add into that mix the cast of characters that we see beyond this particular character arc. Included, of course, are the pilots and the relationships between some of the pilot crew and the airline cabin attendant staff. And we get Alain Delon and Sylvia Kristel relationship and their struggles in trying to figure out what their relationship is. And speaking of the pilot crew, this is of course made up of the characters played by Alain Delon, David Warner, and Joe Petroni, played by George Kennedy. So we have yet again the further development and evolution of the character of Joe Petroni. If we recall, those who know the Airport films, we have seen Joe Petroni all the way back from the first film Airport, and due to reasons that are not clear or not presented to us directly, he seems to have a different job position. So he is expressing, or he is experiencing a very exciting degree of job mobility, to the point where now he is the pilot of the Concorde. And so, or he is part of the piloting crew of the Concorde, which is an amazing thing. And so he becomes in many ways one of the direct heroes of this, because it is because of him, or it is his efforts, that will make or break this particular attempt to destroy the Concorde flights. And so with him at the helm, or with him in control, he must maneuver, he must steer the plane in midair, and some really exciting sequences involving missiles in the Concorde, and fighter jets, and explosions in midair, and shooting flare guns, and all the while we also get the human aspects of the relationships. We get a little bit of the David Warner's character talking about aspects of diet, and we have the relationship between Alain Delon and George Kennedy, and there is a lot of humor involved, or a lot of jokes about the cockpit of the airline, and there are some jokes about maybe sexual innuendo and the sort. And we also get George Kennedy's Joe Petroni. As I indicated, there is a lot of progression in his character. That's also true for his personal details. We understand more about his family history than we might have otherwise known about in previous films. And so and it makes one wonder exactly what is the connection between the family history that we understood he had in the first film versus the family history that we understand we had from, say, Airport 1975 onwards. And so this becomes another fascinating aspect of this film, again, in the context of the Concorde Airport 79, the film, and also in the context of the Airport series writ large. Speaking of the airport series writ large, this film, as I say, involves an airport and an airplane. And what's interesting is there are two flights, two Concorde flights, and so in between there is some airport intrigue. And so I find this little airport intrigue sequence to be fascinating because in many ways it brings us back, if you will, to the first film, Airport, where in that film we had a lot of airport intrigue as well as airplane intrigue. And so now in the Concorde Airport 79 film, the fourth film, we get more of the airport intrigue and then the airplane intrigue. So the multi-leveled intrigue aspects. So in that description, I think we can see that this film is very over the top, very ludicrous. It is very funny, sometimes maybe unintentionally funny, but that is part of the charm of these films. This is a camp film to the max, and some of the reasonings for the disaster elements are just quite unbelievable, to the point of being very, very funny indeed. And so these situations, as they are set up, the more one thinks about it, I think the more one realizes how difficult to believe they are. And that is the charm of this film, the Concorde Airport 79. Once again, let me repeat, that is what I would suggest is the utter beautiful charm of this film. This film is cheesy, this film is corny, this film is like a vanilla ice cream sundae. You know, I like vanilla ice cream, and I like vanilla ice cream sundaes a lot. And so sometimes, you know, you get an vanilla ice cream, and you sometimes get an ice cream or you put chocolate syrup on it. Well, the Airport film series could maybe be seen in that way. Say the first film is like a really delicious vanilla ice cream, and then as you get from film to film to film, you put a little bit more chocolate syrup on to make it a little bit different. And each film in the Airport series is like that. It's a little bit different from the last, including this one, the Concorde Airport 79. And so you put more chocolate syrup on to the point where maybe you realize that you've put too much chocolate syrup on, and you think, oh my goodness, I have a vanilla ice cream with too much chocolate syrup. Now, I like chocolate syrup and I like vanilla ice cream, but sometimes I can understand the feeling that maybe too much chocolate syrup might ruin the vanilla ice cream. And so if you feel that way, then perhaps maybe that might be disappointing. But other times, even if there's too much chocolate syrup on the vanilla ice cream, still I can go with it, because as I say, I like chocolate ice cream. I like chocolate syrup, excuse me. It might be a bit too much, but I can go with it. And so this film, the Concorde Airport 79, feels to me like it's a vanilla ice cream with a real heavy load of chocolate syrup. And again, for some, maybe that's not satisfactory. And so therefore, I understand that this film does get some criticism due to these corny elements. But for others, maybe if you like chocolate syrup, a lot of chocolate syrup, maybe too much chocolate syrup on your vanilla ice cream, then this film might be for you. And for me, it feels that way. There is so much just laughter involved. There is just so much WTF moments going on here. There is so much intrigue that is over the top, campy, funny. There is this interplay between the characters, in particular Alain Delon and George Kennedy. Their interactions are priceless gold, cinematic entertainment. And so this all adds, and then add to that the incredibly overly elaborate plots to try to destroy these flights. And if you think about all of that, and also add in little details too, like for instance, John Davidson's character, his name is Robert Palmer. And so, my goodness, it's great to hear Robert Palmer's name mentioned throughout the film. And so, and Charo, and there's a plot involving Charo and a dog. And it reminds us like how these films oftentimes involve dogs or dogs on flights. And so All these little elements add up, and they have these little mini story feeling, mini vignette feels that you can always get into, and each has a type of punchline, whether intentional or not. All the same, those punchlines do hit, and for me, they hit in a way that make me feel so entertained. And so you add all these elements up together, and you get this wonderful ice cream sundae, maybe with a little bit too much syrup, but for me, I'm okay if once in a while my vanilla ice cream has heapings of chocolate syrup. So this is for me the Concorde Airport 79. Again, it's not for everyone, and it's not meant to be for everyone, and it might be a disappointment to a number of people, and that's okay. And then for some, it might represent the aspect of 1970s disaster films, namely the latter half of the decade, where perhaps the films began to, in the eyes of many, maybe go down in cinematic quality. That's okay too. But even in those moments, my friends, even in that viewpoint or that perspective, I can suggest that this film, the Concorde Airport 79, is still one heck of a good time. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.